When a ruthless biker kicked a dog for fun, he was completely unaware that Keanu Reeves was the owner. What started as a peaceful afternoon walk would soon escalate into a dramatic confrontation, proving once again that you should never mess with a man's dog. The concrete streets of Los Angeles basked under the afternoon sun, while Keanu Reeves enjoyed a quiet stroll with his beloved golden retriever, Max. It was meant to be a calm moment away from the bustling world of movie sets and Hollywood lights. Keanu had recently wrapped up filming for the latest John Wick movie. The intense scenes, filled with choreographed fights and dramatic tension, had taken their toll. To decompress, he often spent time with Max, who had become a constant source of comfort and joy. The two shared an inseparable bond, one that mirrored the loyalty often portrayed in Keanu's films. For Keanu, Max wasn't just a dog, he was family. This particular day began like any other. Keanu had decided to take Max for a walk through the neighborhood, a routine both of them cherished. Max's tail wagged with excitement as they strolled past houses, each step accompanied by the rhythmic jingling of his collar. Keanu greeted neighbors with his signature warm smile, occasionally stopping to chat or pet another dog along the way. However, this peaceful scene was about to be shattered. A biker, notorious in the area for his reckless behavior, roared into the neighborhood. His name was Brock, and he had a reputation for stirring up trouble. Dressed in a leather jacket emblazoned with a flaming skull, he embodied a caricature of rebellion. As he sped down the street on his roaring Harley-Davidson, his eyes caught sight of Max. For reasons known only to Brock, he decided to stop. Perhaps it was boredom or an innate desire to assert dominance, but his actions were cruel beyond measure. Without provocation, Brock approached Max, who greeted him with the innocent curiosity only a dog could muster. Then, in an act of sheer malice, Brock kicked Max, sending the poor dog yelping and tumbling across the pavement. The sound of Max's yelp pierced the air, silencing the usual hum of the neighborhood. Keanu froze, his initial disbelief quickly turning into a mix of rage and heartbreak. Neighbors gasped, some capturing the incident on their phones. Brock, unfazed by the outrage, laughed as he mounted his bike again. "Serves you right for getting in my way," he muttered, revving the engine. As he sped off, he remained blissfully unaware of who Max's owner was or the consequences that were about to follow. Keanu rushed to Max's side, kneeling down to check on him. "Max, buddy, are you okay?" he asked, his voice filled with concern. The golden retriever licked Keanu's hand, his tail wagging weakly despite the pain. Keanu's jaw tightened as he gently examined Max for injuries. The sight of his loyal companion in pain fueled a determination within him. Mrs. Caldwell, a neighbor who had witnessed the act, approached Keanu with her phone. "Keanu, you need to see this," she said, her voice trembling with anger. She handed him the phone, which displayed a video of the incident. Keanu watched in silence, his usually calm demeanor giving way to a steely resolve. "Who is this guy?" he asked, his voice low but firm. "His name's Brock," Mrs. Caldwell replied. "He's always causing trouble around here. But Keanu, you can't let this slide. Max didn't deserve that." Keanu nodded, his mind already racing with thoughts of what to do next. He knew Max deserved justice, and he wasn't one to stand idly by while someone harmed the ones he loved. Meanwhile, Brock was oblivious to the storm brewing around him. He had retreated to a local biker bar, bragging about his day to his equally unruly friends. "You should have seen that mutt fly," he boasted, eliciting laughter from the group. Unbeknownst to Brock, his cruelty had set off a chain of events that would soon spiral beyond his control. Back at Keanu's home, the actor was making calls. He reached out to animal rights organizations, friends in law enforcement, and even his personal legal team. "This isn't about revenge," he explained to one of his contacts. "It's about accountability. People need to understand that cruelty like this won't be tolerated." The video of Brock's actions quickly went viral, igniting a wave of outrage across social media. The hashtag #Justice for Max began trending, with celebrities, activists, and everyday people rallying behind Keanu and Max. Messages of support poured in, each one adding momentum to the growing movement. Brock, on the other hand, began to feel the pressure. His phone buzzed incessantly with messages and calls, most of them angry. At first, he dismissed it, thinking it was a temporary backlash. But as his name started appearing in news articles and his actions were condemned by influential figures, Brock realized he might be in over his head. Still, his arrogance wouldn't let him admit fault. "Let them come," he muttered, cracking open a beer. "I'm not scared of anyone." But even as he said the words, doubt crept into his mind. Back at home, Keanu sat beside Max, who had finally fallen asleep. The golden retriever's soft snores filled the room, a stark contrast to the turmoil outside. Keanu stroked Max's fur, his resolve strengthening with each passing moment. "Don't worry, buddy," he whispered. "We're going to make this right." The stage was set for a confrontation that would not only bring Brock to justice, but also remind the world of the importance of kindness and accountability. The growing outrage over Brock's cruel act was reaching a boiling point. Across social media platforms, users expressed their disgust and demanded justice for Max. Comments poured in from fans, activists, and even celebrities who shared the video, amplifying the call for accountability. Yet for Keanu Reeves, the focus was not on the noise or the attention. It was on ensuring Max felt safe and loved, and that Brock understood the gravity of what he had done. As Max rested on the couch, Keanu quietly made plans. He wasn't one to act impulsively, but this situation demanded action. He contacted a trusted local vet to come over and examine Max. The vet, a kind man named Dr. Bennett, arrived with his medical kit and a reassuring smile. He examined Max carefully, his hands gentle and soothing. Max wagged his tail faintly, sensing the kindness in the vet's touch. "Nothing's broken, Doctor," Bennett said after completing his check. "But he's definitely in pain and a bit shaken up. I'll leave you some pain medication for him, and I'd recommend keeping him comfortable for a few days." Keanu nodded, his expression one of relief mixed with determination. "Thank you, Doc. I appreciate you coming over so quickly." As Dr. Bennett left, Keanu stroked Max's fur, whispering softly to him, "You're going to be okay, buddy. I promise." Meanwhile, the video of the incident continued to spread like wildfire. News outlets picked up the story, and Brock's face was now plastered across headlines. Articles described him as the ruthless biker who hurt a dog for fun, and public sentiment was overwhelmingly against him. Brock, on the other hand, was trying to lay low, but it was clear that he was feeling the heat. He had underestimated how much people cared about a dog's well-being, especially when that dog belonged to someone as beloved as Keanu Reeves. Back at his small, cluttered apartment, Brock sat staring at his phone, which buzzed with notifications. Messages from strangers filled his inbox, each more scathing than the last. His friends from the biker gang had gone quiet, likely not wanting to be associated with him after the backlash. He didn't regret kicking the dog, not yet. What he regretted was the attention it had brought him. Keanu, on the other hand, was rallying his resources. He reached out to a lawyer he trusted, not to sue or seek financial damages, but to understand what legal actions could be taken. His goal wasn't revenge, it was accountability. People needed to see that cruelty, whether to animals or humans, came with consequences. His next call was to the local animal shelter he often supported. They had been inundated with messages from people asking how they could help Max. "Let's use this attention to do something good," Keanu said during the call. "We can't change what happened, but maybe we can help other animals in need." As plans were set in motion for a fundraiser and awareness campaign, Brock's situation continued to unravel. One evening, as he parked his bike outside his usual hangout spot, he noticed a group of people glaring at him. They didn't say anything, but their expressions spoke volumes. He could feel the weight of their judgment, and for the first time it began to bother him. When Brock entered the bar, the atmosphere was different. Conversations hushed, and the usual camaraderie was absent. His closest friend, Darren, approached him cautiously. "Man, you've really messed up this time," Darren said. "You kicked a dog, Brock. And not just any dog. Keanu Reeves's dog." "So what?" Brock replied, trying to sound defiant but failing to hide the unease in his voice. Darren shook his head. "This isn't just about the dog. It's about you being a jerk. People are angry, and they have every right to be." Brock didn't respond. He felt the walls closing in, but his pride wouldn't let him admit it. Instead, he ordered a drink and sat in a corner, trying to ignore the whispers and glances directed his way. Back at Keanu's house, the actor was overwhelmed by the outpouring of support from fans and strangers alike. Gifts and messages from Max arrived daily, and Keanu took the time to read as many as he could. One letter written by a young girl stood out to him. In crayon, she had drawn a picture of Max with a superhero cape, accompanied by the words, "Max is strong and brave." Keanu smiled, touched by the simple yet heartfelt gesture. "You hear that, Max?" he said, showing the drawing to the dog. "You're a superhero." Max wagged his tail, his spirits lifting as he basked in the love and attention from his owner. Keanu's determination grew stronger. This wasn't just about Max anymore. It was about standing up for all animals who couldn't stand up for themselves. As the days passed, Keanu's team worked tirelessly to organize the fundraiser. They planned a public event where Keanu would speak about animal cruelty and the importance of treating all living beings with kindness. Proceeds from the event would go to local animal shelters and rescue organizations. Brock, on the other hand, found himself increasingly isolated. His biker friends distanced themselves. His landlord threatened eviction due to the constant media presence outside his apartment, and his job at the local garage was in jeopardy. Yet even as his world crumbled, Brock resisted taking responsibility for his actions. One night, unable to sleep, Brock decided to ride through the city, hoping to clear his mind. As he roared down the empty streets, the memory of Max's yelp played in his head. It wasn't guilt he felt, not entirely, but something deeper, an unease he couldn't shake. As fate would have it, his ride took him past a massive billboard featuring Keanu Reeves holding Max. The words beneath the image read, "Kindness is a choice. Choose it." For the first time, Brock felt the weight of what he had done. Keanu, meanwhile, was preparing for the fundraiser, unaware that the tides were beginning to shift. His focus remained on ensuring Max's recovery and spreading a message of compassion. Little did he know, the events ahead would bring Brock back into his life in a way he hadn't expected. The day of the fundraiser arrived, and Los Angeles buzzed with excitement. The event had gained massive traction, with supporters from all walks of life gathering to show their solidarity. It wasn't just about Keanu Reeves anymore. The movement had grown into a powerful statement against cruelty and a celebration of compassion. Families, animal lovers, and activists filled the venue, holding signs with messages like, "Justice for Max," and "Be kind to all creatures." Keanu stood backstage, dressed simply in jeans and a black shirt, Max sitting by his side. Max looked healthier and more energetic, wagging his tail as he observed the commotion. Keanu knelt down, running a hand through Max's golden fur. "Ready to meet your fans, buddy?" he said softly, earning a happy bark in response. The crowd erupted into cheers when Keanu stepped onto the stage, Max trotting proudly beside him. Keanu's reputation for being humble and genuine had already endeared him to many, but seeing him with Max made the moment even more special. He waved to the crowd, his smile warm but determined. "Thank you all for being here," Keanu began, his voice steady and sincere. "This isn't just about one dog, one incident, or one person. It's about standing up for those who can't speak for themselves. It's about choosing kindness every single day." The audience hung on his every word as he spoke about Max, the importance of compassion, and the broader issue of animal cruelty. He didn't dwell on Brock's actions, but instead focused on the positive change they could all bring. By the time he finished, the crowd was on its feet, applauding and cheering. Meanwhile, Brock was watching the event unfold on his phone. The live stream had appeared in his feed, and despite himself, he couldn't look away. He had been avoiding the internet for days, but curiosity got the better of him. Seeing Keanu on stage speaking passionately about kindness stirred something in him. He didn't want to admit it, but the words hit close to home. The memory of Max's yelp still lingered in his mind, and for the first time, he began to feel a pang of guilt. It wasn't just about the backlash or the consequences he faced. It was about the harm he had caused to an innocent animal. Brock put his phone down and stared at the wall, the sound of Keanu's voice still echoing in his ears. The fundraiser ended with an overwhelming success. Donations poured in, far exceeding expectations, and the event became the talk of the town. Keanu, exhausted but fulfilled, returned home with Max. As they settled in for the evening, Keanu felt a sense of peace. He didn't know what the future held, but he was proud of what they had achieved. Later that night, there was a knock at Keanu's door. He wasn't expecting anyone, and for a moment he hesitated. Max perked up, his ears twitching. Keanu opened the door cautiously, only to find Brock standing there. His leather jacket was gone, replaced by a simple hoodie, and his usually defiant expression had softened. I came to apologize, Brock said, his voice hesitant. I didn't realize the damage I caused, not just to your dog, but to you and to everyone who loves him. Keanu studied him for a moment, his face unreadable. Max, standing beside him, tilted his head as if sensing the tension. Finally, Keanu stepped aside and gestured for Brock to come in. Brock entered the house, looking around nervously. He spotted Max, who approached cautiously, his tail wagging slightly. Brock knelt down, extending a hand. "Hey, buddy," he said softly. Max sniffed his hand, then licked it, as if offering forgiveness. Keanu watched the interaction silently before speaking. "Apologies are a start," he said, "but actions matter more. What are you going to do to make things right?" Brock nodded, understanding the weight of the question. "I want to help," he said earnestly. "With the shelters, the movement, whatever I can do. I messed up, and I want to fix it." Keanu didn't reply immediately. Instead, he walked over to Max, who had settled back onto the couch. "It's not about me," Keanu finally said. "It's about doing better. If you mean what you say, there's work to be done." Brock left that night with a sense of purpose. For the first time in years, he felt the need to change, not because he was forced to, but because it was the right thing to do. The encounter marked a turning point, not just for Brock, but for the entire narrative surrounding the incident. Keanu and Max's story continued to inspire people, serving as a reminder of the power of kindness, redemption, and the unbreakable bond between humans and animals. Brock's journey was just beginning, but the path forward was one of accountability and growth. For Keanu and Max, life returned to its peaceful rhythm, but the impact of their story resonated far and wide, proving that even in the face of cruelty, compassion could prevail. Months passed, and life in the neighborhood slowly returned to normal. Max had fully recovered, his energetic demeanor back to the way it was before that fateful encounter. The bond between Keanu and Max grew even stronger, with their daily walks becoming a cherished ritual. But the ripples from their story were far from over. What had begun as a horrific act of cruelty had now turned into a movement that touched countless lives. The fundraiser that Keanu organized became an annual event, drawing people from all over the country. Its impact wasn't limited to donations alone. It sparked conversations about animal welfare and inspired legislative changes. Keanu, ever humble, played down his role in the movement, insisting that it was a collective effort driven by people's love for animals. As for Brock, his life had taken a dramatic turn. The encounter with Keanu had left a lasting impression on him, and he decided to take the actor's words to heart. True to his promise, Brock began volunteering at local animal shelters, helping care for abused and abandoned animals. At first, the work was humbling and difficult, but over time, it became deeply rewarding. One day, as Brock cleaned out kennels at a shelter, he noticed a nervous pit bull cowering in the corner. The dog had been rescued from an abusive situation and was terrified of humans. Brock approached slowly, speaking in a calm and soothing voice. "Hey, buddy, it's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." To his surprise, the dog eventually allowed him to get close, its trust slowly building. The experience was transformative for Brock. He realized that he wasn't just helping the animals. They were helping him too. They taught him about resilience, forgiveness, and the healing power of love. Brock began sharing his story at community events, using his own mistakes as a way to educate others about the importance of kindness and responsibility. Meanwhile, Keanu and Max continued to be symbols of hope and inspiration. Their story reached people across the globe, reminding them that even in the darkest moments, there is potential for light. Keanu's message was simple yet profound. Everyone has the power to choose kindness, and those choices can create ripples that change the world. One quiet evening, Brock decided to pay Keanu and Max another visit. This time, he wasn't there to apologize, but to express his gratitude. When Keanu opened the door, he found Brock standing there with a shy smile and a bouquet of flowers. Beside him was the pit bull from the shelter, now healthy and happy. "I wanted to say thank you," Brock said. his voice steady and sincere, "for giving me a chance to do better. And I thought you should meet someone." He gestured to the dog, who wagged its tail and stepped forward. Keanu knelt down, smiling warmly as he extended a hand. The dog sniffed it cautiously before leaning in for a pat. "Looks like you've made a friend," Keanu said, looking up at Brock. "Yeah," Brock replied, his voice filled with emotion. "He's taught me a lot about trust, forgiveness, and how to be a better person." Keanu stood and nodded, his expression one of quiet pride. "You've come a long way, and that's something to be proud of." The two men talked for a while, sharing stories about their dogs and their lives. It was a conversation filled with honesty, growth, and mutual respect. As Brock left that night, he felt a sense of peace he hadn't known in years. For Keanu and Max, it was another reminder of the incredible impact one act of kindness could have. Their story had come full circle, leaving a legacy of compassion and hope. And as they settled in for the night, Keanu scratched Max behind the ears and said, "We did good, buddy. We did good." The world may be full of challenges and cruelty, but stories like theirs prove that love, forgiveness, and kindness could always prevail. It was a lesson not just for Brock or the neighborhood, but for anyone who heard their story. A reminder that even the smallest actions could spark the biggest changes.